Rekka had never liked space stations. They were cold, quiet, and smelled like burnt metal. But her job was simple: repair broken machines and move on. She had done it on mining ships, food freighters, even old war relics. This one, however, was different. The moon was called LO9, a forgotten place near the edge of the Empire's control. It had once been a mining outpost, but it was now just a graveyard of rusted metal and cracked stone. Her orders were clear: check the systems, scan for active tech, and leave. No questions. Rekka's small repair pod landed gently on the surface. Dust flew up, covering the glass window. She stepped out in her gray suit, holding a handheld scanner. The wind outside whispered, dry and lifeless. The entrance to the main station was half buried under rock. She pushed open the door with a groan of metal dot inside. Everything was silent. Broken screens blinked in dim light. Old Empire logos were faded on the walls. Rekka walked slowly through the hall, boots tapping the floor. Her scanner beeped once, then went quiet. The air was breathable. That was strange. As she passed a lock gate marked restricted, she paused. The scanner beeped again. Power source detected large and active. She frowned. This place was supposed to be dead. Rekka looked at the control panel. The screen was cracked, but the lock still worked. She pulled out her tools, and with a few sparks, the gate opened. What she saw inside made her heart stop. The room was round and wide, filled with old wires, humming lights, and in the center a glowing device. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. And beside it, chained to the floor by glowing cuffs, was a girl. She wasn't human. The girl had soft purple skin, silver eyes, and white hair that fell over her shoulders like silk. Her arms and ankles were tied with energy chains connected to the bomb. Her eyes opened slowly, and when she saw Rekka, she whispered one word: go. Rekka froze. What is this? You must leave, the alien girl said, her voice shaking. They will come. Rekka stepped forward carefully. Are you hurt? The girl looked down. No. But the machine, it's a weapon, a powerful one. They planned to make it look like I caused it. Rekka's mind raced. The Empire had been doing strange things in the outer sectors. Disappearances, bombings, civil wars with no reason. Was this part of it? You're being used, Rekka said softly. The girl nodded. They chained me here to die. Rekka dropped to one knee and examined the bomb. It was old tech Terran made, but modified with alien parts. The energy core was unstable. If it went off, it would destroy the moon and everything around it. You're lucky I came. Rekka said. No, the girl whispered. You're in danger now too. Suddenly, a deep alarm rang through the base. Red lights blinked. Someone knew she had entered. Rekka stood up. I'm not leaving without you. The girl's eyes widened. You cannot free me. The chains are made to drain power. If you break them wrong, the bomb will trigger. Rekka smiled faintly. Good thing I fix things for a living. She pulled out a small cutter tool and scanned the chain points. The bomb was connected to the cuffs by energy links. She could redirect the flow, but it would take time. Outside the room, she heard a deep mechanical sound. Empire drones work fast, Rekka, she told herself. The girl watched in silence as Rekka moved quickly. She redirected to wires, paused, and checked the pulse. Still stable. What's your name? Rekka asked as she adjusted the tool. The girl hesitated. Sia. All right, Sia. I'm going to get you out of here. Sia looked at her with something close to wonder. Why, you don't even know me. Rekka didn't stop working. Because someone has to do the right thing. And I'm here now. The third link was harder. Rekka's hands shook. The energy hissed loudly. Almost there. Suddenly, the door behind them burst open. The drones hovered in, their lights blinking red. Rekka stood up, pulled a pulse gun from her belt, and fired. One drone spun and fell. The second moved faster, aiming at her. Sia, still chained, raised her hand and the drone jerked, as if pulled by air, crashing into the wall. You can fight, Rekka asked. Only a little, Sia said weakly. I am drained. Then save your strength. Rekka turned back to the last link. The bomb was pulsing faster now. She had only one chance. She closed her eyes, took a breath, and cut the final line. The energy faded. The cuffs vanished with a soft hum. Sia gasped and collapsed forward. Rekka caught her. "It's done." Rekka whispered, "You're free." But there was no time. To celebrate, more drones were coming. Rekka helped Sia to her feet. "Can you walk?" "Yes," Sia said, though her legs trembled. Rekka guided her through the hall. Explosions rocked the station behind them as drones fired blindly. They ran through the tunnels, past old storage rooms, and cracked windows. At the landing pad, Rekka's repair pod waited. Ciya looked up. "That ship is small. It's not made for comfort," Rekka said. "Just speed." They climbed in, and Rekka hit the launch. The pod shook and lifted. As they left the moon's orbit, Rekka looked back. The bomb was still there, but now, powerless. "Where do we go?" Sia asked, eyes full of fear and hope. Rekka stared into the stars. "We find the truth, and we stop them from doing this again." In that moment, to strangers, one human, one alien began a journey that would shake the stars. The stars outside the pod window moved slowly. The engines were old and shaky, but they held together. Rekka kept one hand on the controls and her eyes on the scanner. No sign of Empire ships yet. Behind her, Sia sat quietly, wrapped in a thin blanket. Her hands were still trembling, and her silver eyes stared at the floor. The cuffs had left marks on her skin, thin glowing lines that looked like fading fire. "You should rest," Rekka said, keeping her voice calm. "I cannot," Sia replied. "They will come for us." "They might," Rekka admitted, "but they won't catch us. Not now." She checked the fuel levels. The pod didn't have much range. It was only meant for short repairs, not long flights. But there was an old outpost not far from L09 Station Hilla, once used for cargo transfers. It might still have parts or even a ship. Rekka set the course. "Why did they do it?" she asked after a moment. "Why chain you to a bomb?" Sia looked up slowly. Her voice was soft. "Because I said no." "To what?" "To becoming their tool." Rekka waited, listening. "My people, the Voni, do not fight," Sia continued. "We believe in harmony, in shared thought, and peace. When the Empire came, they offered protection, but in return, they wanted obedience. They wanted us to use our gifts for war." Rekka glanced back. "Gifts?" Sia touched her forehead gently. "Some of us can connect minds, only for a short time, and only when we trust. It's not control, it's just understanding. They wanted to use it to break enemies, to steal secrets from prisoners. We refused." Rekka nodded slowly. "And so they tried to destroy you? They sent ships, burned villages, took many of us. I was taken last. They told me I would bring peace by being the reason for war." Rekka tightened her grip on the controls. "They planned to make you look like a terrorist." Sia nodded. "And then erase my people forever." Rekka didn't speak for a while. She stared at the stars, angry and quiet. She had seen the Empire do strange things, force quiet colonies to surrender land, silence traders who asked too many questions. But this was worse. "We'll stop them," Rekka said finally. Ciya looked uncertain. "How?" "Truth," Rekka replied. "We find it, show it, and spread it." The pod screen blinked red. Incoming signal. Rekka's heart jumped. She scanned the signal. Empire drones, for small ships, heading straight for them. "They're here." Sia stood up weakly. "Can we escape?" "We can try." Rekka pushed the engines harder. The pod shook badly. Warning lights flashing. One of the back boosters was starting to overheat. A drone fired bright light cut across the dark space. It missed, but only just. "Hang on," Rekka said, gripping the controls. Ciya reached out, her voice calm. "Let me help." "What can you do?" "Guide your mind. Just for a moment. I won't control, only focus." Rekka hesitated. "You sure?" Sia nodded. "Trust is how it works." Rekka gave a small nod. "All right." Sia closed her eyes, and for a second, Rekka felt something warm, like wind on a quiet hill. Her mind felt clear, her thoughts sharper. She could almost see the movement of the drones before they came. She spun the pod hard to the left. Dodging. Another shot. The engines roared, but the path opened ahead a broken asteroid field. Dangerous, yes, but full of cover. She flew straight into it. The drones followed, but struggled between the rocks. One hit a sharp turn and exploded in light. Another crashed into a floating boulder, only to remain. We're close, Rekka said. Station Hill is just ahead. Sia opened her eyes. I can feel them weakening. They're programmed to follow patterns, Rekka explained, but they don't think well in chaos. She cut power suddenly and let the pod drift. Behind them, the drones hesitated. Without the engine signal, they lost track for a moment. Rekka flipped a hidden switch manual fire. A pulse cannon under the pod fired once twice. One drone cracked and spun. The other turned away. Smart, Rekka said. It knows it can't win. The scanner showed Station Hilla in the distance. It looked broken. Half of it had no lights, but the landing bay was still intact. They landed roughly. Rekka helped. See out. The air inside the station was dry and thick with dust. Machines were covered in old cables and rust. We'll need fuel, Rekka said. Maybe a better ship. They walked through the dark halls, guided by weak emergency lights. In a back room, Rekka found a small cargo vessel, dusty but repairable. This could work. She said. Ciy wandered to a console and touched the screen. A surprise flashed in her eyes. What is it? Rekka asked. There are messages, Sia said. Old, but stored here. Rekka looked closer. The messages were from other systems, strange reports. Attacks that made no sense. Colonies that were said to be destroyed by rebels, but there were no rebels in the area. Same pattern, Rekka said. False attacks, fake blame. She copied the files onto her data core. Suddenly, a sound echoed in the hall. A low hum. Empire signal, Rekka whispered. They found us. No, Sia said. Not Empire. Something else. They turned as a shape entered the bay, a small flyer, patched together with different parts. A man stepped out, tall and thin, wearing old pilot gear. His face was tired, but kind. Name's Mikhail, he said. I picked up your escape. Rekka raised her tool cautiously. Friend or spy, neither, Mikhail said. But I saw the signal from Elonide. No one survives that place unless they've got something big. Rekka studied him. We do. Mikhail nodded. Then you want help. Empire won't stop chasing. But I've flown past their blind spots before. I know where their secrets hide. Sia stepped forward. Can we trust you? I once flew for them, Mikhail said quietly. But not anymore. They lied to me. Took people I cared about. Rekka lowered her tool. Then welcome aboard. They spent the next few hours fixing the cargo ship. With Mikhail's help, they patched the engines, loaded fuel, and brought the system back to life. The ship, though old, was strong. As they prepared to leave, Rekka turned to Sia. We'll need more proof, more data. Places where the Empire left its fingerprints. Sia nodded. I know where one is. Rekka raised an eyebrow. The archive world, Sia said. Murok. That's where they store records. Hidden truths. Mikhail blinked. You want to go there? That place is guarded like a fortress. Rekka smiled slightly, then weed. Better be careful. The engines roared to life. The ship lifted into space, carrying three strangers brought together by fate, truth, and quiet fury. Above them, the stars watched. The stars around them were quiet, but inside the ship, the air was tense. Rekka sat near the front console, eyes locked on the navigation map. The cargo ship, now named Starwind, was slow but steady. With the repairs done, it had enough strength to reach Murok, the archive world. Behind her, Sia stood beside a small screen, reading old reports from the Empire's data system. Mikhail leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching both of them closely. Murok won't be easy, he said. Even ships that carry supplies have to pass 5 scans. If we're caught, we won't be. Rekka replied. If we move at the right time. She zoomed in on the map. The orbit around Murok was protected by drones. But there was a small moon nearby, Fex 3. It had broken rock formations that could hide their ship for a short time. We'll land there. Then sneak inside on foot, Rekka explained. Mikhail sighed. I hope your plan is better than your landing skills. Rekka smiled a little. Don't worry. I crashed soft. Sia turned from the screen. There's something I need to say. Both Rekka and Mikhail looked up. Sia's silver eyes glowed. Softly, I wasn't honest before. Livoni don't just share thoughts. We can sense truth. Mikhail raised an eyebrow. You can tell if someone's lying. Not always, Sia replied. But strong emotions, fear, anger, guilt, they leave echoes. Rekka leaned forward. Can you use it in the archive? I can try, Sia said. But the place will be filled with confusion. It will not be easy. Then we go together, Rekka said. All three of us. 3 days later, the star wind floated behind the shadow of Fex 3. The rocky moon blocked most scans, just as Rekka had hoped from here. The golden ring of Murak could be seen a wide planet. With glowing towers and thin silver clouds, Murak was not made for beauty. It was made to hide. The trio boarded a small drop pod. It was barely large enough for them, but fast and quiet. Rekka guided it carefully through a path between satellites. As they entered the outer edge of the city, Murak's tall towers reached toward the sky like frozen fingers. Each tower stored information, thousands of years of reports, files, and secrets. The one they needed was deep underground, core room 7A. They landed in a blind spot beside a quiet power station. Rekka opened the hatch and stepped out into the cold wind. The city was quiet, but clean. No birds, no workers, just humming lights and distant security drones. They moved quickly through side paths, hiding in shadows. Sia guided them with soft whispers, warning them of cameras and patrols. Her senses helped them avoid danger. After an hour of careful movement, they reached a service tunnel. Mikhail pulled out an old ID chip. This will get us past the first door, he said. Beyond that, we'll need your tools. Rekka nodded. She knelt near the control panel and used her cutter to open the side panel. Wires glowed inside, pulsing blue. She smiled. Old tech. I like it when they're lazy. Within minutes, the door hissed open. They entered a cold hallway with metal walls and blinking lights. Voices echoed from faraway Empire workers, maybe, or patrols. They moved silently until they reached a stairwell leading downward. At the bottom was a thick blast door. On the other side was core room 7A. Rekka placed a small sensor on the lock. It read the pattern and hummed quietly. 10 minutes. She said. Ciya stood very still. Her fingers touched the wall, and her eyes narrowed. There's something here, she whispered. What is it? Mikhail asked. Pain, she said. A memory, a warning. Suddenly, the lights above flickered. Rekka looked up. We've been noticed. The door clicked open, and they rushed inside. Core room 7A was round and dark, filled with blue screens, silver machines, and floating data crystals. The walls had markings in multiple languages. One screen showed the history of military actions, dates, places, names. Sia walked slowly, her hands hovering near the crystals. They recorded everything, she said, even things they erased from the public network. Rekka sat at the main terminal. She pulled out her data core and started downloading files. We need proof of false attacks. Files about the bomb on LO9. Anything that shows what they've done. Mikhail moved to the side wall and tapped into a message stream. His eyes narrowed. Listen to this. He said, it's a message sent before the LO9 incident. It says, subject secured. Detonation set for summit window. Spread blame to Voni tribe as planned. Rekka's fingers froze on the keyboard. That's it. She copied the file and added it to the data core. Then she opened another folder. Inside were blueprints, designs for new weapons. They're planning more, she said. More bombs. More lies. Sia stood at a memory crystal. She touched it and her eyes widened. What is it? Rekka asked. Sia whispered. A vision. From one of their generals. He felt fear. Fear of what? Of someone spreading the truth. Of the people rising. Rekka finished the copy. Then let's give them something to be afraid of. Suddenly, alarms screamed through the room. Detected, Mikhail said quickly. We need to go. Sia backed away from the crystal. Wait, one more thing. She reached out and pulled a thin rod from the wall. It glowed green. "This is a core key," she explained. "It can open any locked system built in the last 10 years. "Bring it," Rekka said. "We'll need it." They ran through the hallway. Drones flew around corners, flashing red lights. Mikhail fired once, taking down one. Rekka rolled behind cover and opened a hatch to the tunnels. And here, they slid down the ladder and entered a sewer line under the city. The water was low, but the smell was strong. Behind them, the drones searched above. They didn't stop running until they reached the far edge of the city. The Starwind waited in orbit, guided remotely by an auto-return command. Rekka triggered the signal. Moments later, a new drop pod arrived. They climbed inside, breathing hard, and launched back to space. Back on the Starwind, Rekka placed the data core in a locked box. "This changes everything," she said. "We have names, proof, and the plans for their next move." Mikhail nodded. "Now we need people who will listen. We need to show this to the border colonies," Rekka said. "The forgotten ones, the places the Empire thinks don't matter. They'll believe us," Sia asked. "They've seen the damage," Rekka replied. "They just don't know why." Yet, Sia touched the core key gently. "This is not just truth. It's fire." Rekka looked at her. "Then it's time we light the stars." The ship turned quietly in space, heading toward the edge of the Empire. In its cargo, it carried truth strong enough to shake a kingdom. The Starwind glided silently through the shadow of the massive Empire station, a fortress called Murok, the heart of the Empire's secrets. Below, the city shimmered cold and quiet, like a giant glass dome resting on a frozen world. Rekka's fingers danced over the control panel as she brought the ship to a hidden landing pad, far from the busy ports. "We're here," she whispered. "Now comes the hard part." Sia stood near the window, her silver eyes reflecting the city lights. "The Empire's data is held deep underground. We must be careful." Mikhail checked his gear: a warm blaster, a small knife, and a few tech gadgets. "I know some back ways," he said, voice low. "But the city itself is full of guards and silent cameras. If we're seen, we'll be caught in minutes." Rekka nodded. "No one will hear us. The city is a ghost." They exited the ship and entered the cold night. The air was thin and smelled of metal and dust. Streets stretched in perfect grids, empty of people. Tall towers rose like silent sentinels, their windows dark. "Where is everyone?" Sia asked. Mikhail shook his head. "The Empire doesn't like crowds here. They keep workers underground or in hidden sectors. The surface is just for power and security." The trio moved carefully. Rekka pulled out a small device, a scanner, that could detect hidden cameras and sensors. The device beeped softly but steadily. Each beep was a silent warning. "Stay close," Rekka said. "We have to reach the central archive without setting off alarms." They passed empty plazas and silent transport hubs. The city's silence was heavy, like a held breath. Rekka thought of the stories she had heard, how the Empire kept secrets by keeping people afraid. Suddenly, the scanner beeped faster. "Camera ahead," Rekka warned. They ducked behind a low wall. Through a narrow gap, Rekka could see a small drone hovering quietly, its lens scanning the area. Mikhail smiled grimly. "I'll take care of it." He pulled out a small EMP grenade. Carefully, he rolled it under the drone. A soft pulse rippled through the air, and the drone collapsed silently. "Nice shot," Rekka whispered. They moved forward. The streets led them to a large building marked Central Data Tower. The entrance was guarded by heavy doors and sensors. Sia stepped forward. "I have a way." She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. Rekka felt a strange calm wash over her, like waves in a still ocean. Sia's power worked quietly. She connected with the nearby guards' minds, sensing their fears and doubts. A guard hesitated, then slowly turned away, like walking through a dream. Mikhail said quietly. Rekka used this moment to hack the door controls. Her fingers flew over the keypad, rerouting power and disabling alarms. The door slid open with a whisper. Inside, the tower was dark but filled with soft blue light from data panels lining the walls. Rows of servers hummed quietly. Rekka led them deeper. Using the stolen key from LO9 to access locked sections, they found files about alien uprisings, falsified attacks, and secret weapons. Most chilling were files about the Voni people marked as hostile insurgents and slated for removal. Sia touched a crystal storage unit, her eyes filling with sorrow. They call us enemies, she said softly. They want us gone. Rekka copied the files onto her data core, careful to stay out of sight. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hall. Someone's coming, Mikhail hissed. They hid in a small maintenance closet. The door slid open, revealing two guards. They talked quietly about increased security and new orders. Rekka held her breath. If they found them here, it would be the end. The guards left, and the door closed softly. That was close, Sia whispered. Rekka nodded. Too close. They hurried to the final room, the central archives. Rekka inserted the core key, and the massive door unlocked with a slow, deep sound. Inside, the room was filled with floating holograms and ancient data crystals. Rekka scanned through them, finding footage of alien leaders being captured and framed by the Empire. There were plans for more bombs, more false attacks, and more lies. Sia stepped forward and placed her hand on a glowing crystal. Her eyes widened. I see their fear again, she said. Fear of the truth spreading. Rekka downloaded everything she could. They had what they needed. As they turned to leave, alarms blared suddenly. They found us, Mikhail said grimly. They ran back through the halls, dodging security bots and flashing red lights. Rekka fired at a drone chasing them, and Mikhail knocked over a guard. At the exit, the heavy doors began to close. Hold them, Rekka shouted. Ciya focused her power, sending a wave of calm confusion through the guards nearby. The doors slid open just in time, and they sprinted outside. The cold air hit them as they reached the Starwind. Rekka sealed the hatch and fired the engines. The ship lifted smoothly into space. As the city disappeared behind them, Sia looked at Rekka. We did what we came for, she said. Rekka nodded. But this is just the beginning. Mikhail looked out at the stars. They won't give up, no, Rekka said firmly. But neither will we. The Starwind set a course for the outer colonies, carrying proof of the Empire's crimes. The silent city below held secrets. But the truth was no longer silent. The Starwind traveled through dark space, its engines humming softly. Outside, stars blinked like distant fireflies, but inside, the small crew prepared for what lay ahead. Rekka stood in the ship's small common room, studying the data files they had gathered. The proof of the Empire's lies was clear: plans for false attacks, secret weapons, and the destruction of entire planets, all hidden behind a mask of peace. Sia sat quietly nearby, her silver eyes glowing faintly. She was growing stronger. Though still weak from the bomb's chains, her mind power was awakening. A connection Rekka knew would be important. Mikhail paced back and forth. We can't do this alone, he said. The Empire's power reaches far. But there are others, outcasts, forgotten colonies, rebels. If we find them, we might have a chance. Rekka nodded. We need allies, people who have suffered under the Empire's rule, people who want change. Just then, the ship's communication system beeped. A message was incoming, encrypted, but urgent. Rekka activated the screen. A rough voice spoke. This is Darrow from the Outer Fringe. We received your signal. We believe you have the truth. We want to help. Mikhail smiled. That's a start. Rekka quickly sent a reply. They arranged to meet at a small asteroid base near the edge of the Empire's control. Days later, the Starwind docked at the dusty asteroid station. The place was small and worn, with a few ships scattered across its surface. Inside, people moved cautiously: smugglers, traders, and those who had chosen to live outside the Empire's reach. Rekka, Sia, and Mikhail stepped onto the rough platform. They were met by a tall man with sharp eyes and a friendly smile. Darrow, Mikhail said, shaking his hand. Darrow was rough around the edges, but had a spark of hope in his gaze. You brought proof. Yes, Rekka nodded. Enough to start a rebellion. Darrow led them inside a dimly lit room filled with maps and holoboards. Around a large table, others sat, representatives from several fringe colonies. There was Tanu, a quiet mechanic with steady hands, Mara, a former merchant who lost her home, and Vec, an alien from a small desert planet. We've heard rumors, Mara said, about the Empire's lies, but we never had proof. Now you do, Rekka replied. And we want to build a coalition, a group strong enough to stand against the Empire. The room was quiet for a moment. Tanu spoke first. What can we do? The Empire has fleets, weapons, spies. Rekka smiled. They have fleets, yes, but they don't have the truth, and truth can travel faster than ships. Sia added, I can help. My people's mind connection can share feelings and thoughts. We can unite more than just words. Vec nodded. A united voice is powerful. We have technology, but no leadership. Darrow stood. Then let's be that leadership. Let's prepare. The Empire won't wait. Over the next days, the small group worked tirelessly. Rekka shared the data files, showing the Empire's plans and lies. Mikhail helped repair ships and train pilots. Sia connected with each member, building trust and unity. One evening, as the sun set over the asteroid, Rekka and Sia sat outside, watching stars appear. Do you think we can really win? Sia asked softly. Rekka looked at her. We don't have a choice. We have to try. Sia nodded. My people feared using our powers for war. But maybe this time, it's different. Rekka smiled. Sometimes, standing up is the only peace. Their plan was simple but dangerous. Strike the Empire's secret weapon factory on a nearby planet. Before the next wave of false attacks could begin, they gathered their small fleet, a mix of old freighters, fast scouts, and repaired fighters. Rekka stood before the crew, her voice steady. This is more than a fight. It's a chance to change the stars. We're not just fighting for ourselves, but for everyone the Empire has silenced. Sia raised her hand, and a soft wave of calm passed through the crowd. Together, she said, we are stronger. The fleet launched into space, engines roaring. The stars stretched before them like a path to freedom or destruction. As they approached the target, tension grew. The factory planet was heavily guarded, surrounded by drones and shields. Mikhail piloted the lead ship, weaving through enemy lines. Rekka and Sia prepared to board the station, their minds focused on the mission. The Empire was powerful, but the light of truth was brighter. The small fleet moved silently through the black space toward the Empire's weapons station, orbiting the red star known as Vesher. The station was a giant structure of steel and light, bristling with defense turrets and guarded by fast patrol ships. Rekka sat in the command seat of the lead ship, Starwind, her fingers steady on the controls, eyes sharp and clear. Beside her, Sia closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. She could feel the hum of the station's energy shields and the nervous tension in the minds of the soldiers inside. Her gift allowed brief connection, enough to sense fear and confusion, but not control. It was a delicate balance, one she was still learning. Mikhail checked the scanners. We've got the patrol cruisers on our tail. He said, they won't give us an easy path. Darrow, commanding the rebel fighters, spoke over the comms. Hold tight. We strike at dawn. Rekka nodded. We can't afford mistakes. The station's defenses were strong. Automated laser turrets swept the skies, and drone swarms patrolled the nearby space. But Rekka had an idea: use Sia's power to create a moment of confusion, enough for them to slip through. As the sun of Vesher began to rise, the fleet moved closer. Sia focused, sending out a calm wave to the minds of the defenders. For a moment, alarms slowed, and weapons hesitated. Now, Rekka shouted. The fleet surged forward. The fighters darted between turrets, drawing fire and distracting the drones. Mikhail piloted Starwind toward the station's docking bay, dodging blasts and debris. Inside the station, Rekka and Sia prepared to board. They wore light armor, carrying tools and devices to disable the station's defenses from within. As they entered through a maintenance hatch, the station's cold corridors stretched before them. The hum of machines and distant footsteps filled the air. Sia's eyes glowed faintly. We're close to the control room. Rekka nodded, pulling out a small scanner. We have to shut down the main weapon system before the bomb can be activated. The Empire had designed a new weapon, a bomb fueled by Voni life energy. Sia's people were meant to power the weapon, but the rebels would not let that happen suddenly. Alarms blared. Guards, Mikhail's voice crackled in their comms. They moved quickly through the narrow halls, disabling security cameras and unlocking doors. Darrow's fighters battled outside, keeping reinforcements away. In the control room, Rekka hacked into the main console. Lines of code and energy flows filled the screen. Almost there, she said. Ciya reached out with her mind, sensing the energy core. It was unstable, glowing with dangerous power. I can disrupt it, she said, but it will cost me. No, Rekka said firmly. We do this together. They worked side by side. Rekka rewrote the code to reverse the energy flow while Siya sent waves of calming energy into the core, preventing it from exploding. The bomb's pulse slowed, then faltered. Outside, Darrow's fighters had pushed back the last enemy ships. The station was theirs, but then Rekka noticed a countdown on the console. Another bomb, hidden deep inside the station, was about to detonate. Not good, she muttered. Sia's eyes flashed. I'll go. I can stop it. Rekka shook her head. We'll do it together. They raced to the lower levels, following the signal. The bomb was large and humming, ready to explode. Sia placed her hands on it, channeling her life energy to neutralize the power. Rekka worked on the controls, rewiring the device. Seconds passed like hours. The bomb's glow dimmed. The danger passed. They stood, breathless but victorious. The weapon station's alarms quieted, and the rebel fleet celebrated above. Rekka smiled at Sia. We did it, Sia nodded. This is only the start. Outside, the stars shone brightly. The fight for freedom had just begun. Smoke rose from the wreckage of the Empire's weapon station. The rebel fleet hovered nearby in silent victory, watching as the once feared stronghold burned against the stars. Inside the Starwind, Rekka sat at the control desk, staring at the communication screen. A message was being transmitted from every rebel ship, every free colony, every distant outpost. The Empire's crimes were no longer hidden. Their lies were broken. The truth was everywhere now. Sia stood beside her, hands clasped, her silver eyes glowed faintly, not with weakness this time, but with power and peace. It has begun, she said softly. Rekka nodded. And now, we finish it, in the central chamber of the asteroid base. Darrow, Mara, Tanu, and Vek had gathered. Leaders from across the outer fringe joined them. Rekka walked into the hall, not as a pilot or rebel, but as the one who had lit the fire of change. Mikhail stood behind her, proud and quiet. Sia entered last, her calm presence bringing silence to the room. The Empire has lost its shield of silence, Rekka said. We have exposed them, but they still have power, fleets, weapons, and fear. If we stop now, they will rebuild. We must strike at their heart. There was a heavy pause. Darrow leaned forward. The Imperial core. Tanu frowned. It's deep. In their system, surrounded by armies, Mara added, and still holding dozens of Voni prisoners. If they complete their new weapon, we lose everything. Sia stepped forward. I can reach my people. If we go now, I can help free them. We will not be used again. Vex stood. Then we fly, together. And so the plan was made. One final strike. The largest fleet the rebellion had ever seen would travel to the Imperial core, destroy the new energy weapon, and free the Voni. The journey took days through dangerous space. Enemy scouts tried to stop them, but the rebels moved fast. They had the truth behind them, and the truth had power. Rekka stood at the bridge of the Starwind as they approached the shining core world. The skies were full of Empire ships. The enemy had seen them coming. Mikhail said, We won't surprise them this time. We don't need surprise, Rekka replied. We have each other. The rebel ships flew in tight formations. Fighters shielded freighters. Scout ships moved like birds through clouds. Darrow's command ship led the charge. The battle began. With a thunder of light and fire, explosions lit the sky. But the rebels pushed forward. Inside the Starwind, Sia closed her eyes again. She reached with her mind, calling out to the Voni still trapped below. Her thoughts moved like light, whispering, "To them, you are not alone." And one by one, they answered. Deep inside the Imperial fortress, Voni prisoners opened their eyes. They felt strength return. The chains that once held them began to crack. Together, with their joined minds, they sent out a pulse one strong, enough to short out power systems across the fortress. Lights flickered, alarms failed, and the gates opened. The prisoners ran to safety. Above, the Imperial weapon half built, half charged began to shake. Rekka guided the Star Wind toward the power core. The fleet had cleared the path, but enemy drones still fired. From the towers, Mikhail controlled the shields, blocking incoming fire. Sia turned to Rekka. "This will be the last time I use this power." Rekka looked at her. "You don't have to." "I do," Sia said calmly, "to finish what they started. To set us all free." She stepped to the back of the ship, where the energy wave disruptor was stored. Her touch charged it with pure mind light. Outside, the giant weapon rose from the fortress, preparing to fire. Sia focused her thoughts. With a quiet whisper, she released the pulse. A wave of energy spread across the sky. The Empire's weapon broke apart like glass. The fortress crumbled. Enemy ships fled. The core world fell silent. The battle was over. The rebels cheered. Rekka stood on the surface of the ruined fortress, watching the stars above. Around her, free Voni and rebel leaders gathered. Sia sat on a nearby rock, weak but smiling. "You did it," Rekka said. "No," Sia replied, voice soft. "We did. Darrow, join them. The Empire's rule is broken. Now comes the harder part." Peace, Rekka nodded. "Then let's build something better." Weeks later, across many stars, the United Free Systems was born. No more chains, no more lies. Colonies were no longer alone. Rekka became a voice of unity. Sia taught her people that their gifts could help, not harm. Mikhail opened a pilot school for young rebels. Darrow helped form a new council to keep peace, not power. The Star Wind rested on a green hill, its engines quiet at last. Rekka and Sia stood beneath a wide sky. "Do you miss the stars?" Sia asked. Rekka smiled. "They'll always be there. But I like the quiet too." Sia nodded. "We flew through fire, and still, we're here, together." They watched the sunrise of a free world.